Welcome to another episode of Throne Mastermind Sessions. The session is beginning. All members are now expected to assume position on their throne.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Throne Mastermind Sessions. This is Eli Marcus, and today we will be discussing gossip is black magic for psychological hijacking and mind control. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to lecture on how gossip can be a form of black magic to psychologically hijack people. Carefully crafted gossip formed by the hijacker can plant seeds in their target's mind to remote control their behaviors towards a hidden agenda. An often sinister agenda. The target, who is psychologically hijacked, unknowingly does the bidding of their hijacker, is still required to pay the spiritual consequences for aligning themselves with the sequence of patterns and frequency of deception, which is why it's very important to study how psychological hijacking works to protect yourself from cycles of bad karma due to the sins you committed while under mind control. This is going to be a very, very good lesson for everyone. I'm speaking of the unseen. I'm speaking of the spiritual. I'm speaking of signals and energetics that people don't see and that they can't really even verbalize it, because what I'm talking about, I'm addressing the unconscious with this topic. When we're talking about psychological hijacking, this is the unconscious. Most of the participants who are in this dynamic, including the hijacker and their target, it's a totally unconscious or mostly unconscious dynamic, because it touches on so many different complex mental and emotional things within a person. It's a cocktail of all of that can control a person's behavior and movements, and they're not even aware that they're being remote controlled by a hijacker, that they've been psychologically hijacked, that they are compromised. So I want to first off say, when I talk about gossip, I'm not necessarily saying like all gossip is black magic. Some gossip is just petty. Some gossip is pointless. Some people gossip and there's no real motive behind why they're gossiping. They're just doing it. It can still be very destructive, but I'm not saying all of that is just black magic. It's still very destructive. It's still dark energy, but I'm not saying all gossip is black magic. The gossip that I consider black magic is when the one that is gossiping has a high degree of conscious intent to manipulate the person or individuals that they're gossiping to. That is black magic. It's black magic because it presents itself as a casual conversation. So your mind, your defenses are kind of offline. Your armor is off when you think you're just having a casual conversation. And then slowly gossip is introduced to that conversation. And within that gossip, what looks like just a casual conversation, there's a few things that are going on. You're being turned out. Your hands are getting dirty. Your energy's getting dirty. Someone says something quick that's negative about someone else, and under the influence and having a conversation and not wanting to be off-putting to them, you kind of agree with what they're saying. Maybe you add a little bit more dirt on the person's name that they're targeting. Yeah, she is. She is a little weird. You're right. I was thinking that same thing. You know what? He is a little creepy over there. I felt that way too. When you don't mean that, when you don't really think what you're saying. But the way the person who's talking to you, who's gossiping to you, is pouring their energy into you, you can be tricked into dirtying your hands with what they want you to be dirty with. You can be tricked into putting dirt on someone's name or on something or anything. You can be tricked into doing that in the heat of the moment of just having a casual conversation. So once you have demonstrated that your hands are dirty as well, that you've said some low down trifling things about the person, place, or thing that they wanted you to say something negative about with them, now you're in an agreement with them. Now you're in agreement. You've actually said something out of your mouth that was negative about what they wanted you to say something negative about. If you didn't have a genuine negative conclusion, opinion, or vibe, you didn't really have to say it. You chose to. So now your hands are dirty. That's one of the things that takes place with this black magic. When someone's being sinister, they get your hands dirty first with them. So now that your hands are dirty, the casual conversation, what seems like a very casual, harmless conversation, evolves into something even more sinister. You were given instructions during the gossip without you even knowing it. A spell is being placed on your mind and you are giving instructions. You're giving an objective, a mission. Your hands are already dirty and now they're giving you instructions. They're sending signals to you on instructions. Your unconscious is receiving those instructions without you even knowing it. This is what makes gossip black magic when it's being performed by a hijacker who is manipulating you with conscious intent. It's black magic. I'm just explaining the practical elements of how it's black magic. When people talk about black magic, they think someone's in a dark room somewhere with, lighting candles and singing a chant and doing something spooky. No, black magic can actually happen in the form of gossip. Your behaviors and movement, and you can be psychologically hijacked literally through the energetic of gossip. When your unconscious is receiving instructions on how to treat someone, instructions on how to narrate someone when you speak of them, instructions on who to associate with and who not to associate with, instructions on where you're going to get your social brownie points and where you won't get it, instructions on how to narrate a situation or a person by the hijacker is within the gossip, is in what appears to be a friendly, casual conversation. I said gossip is black magic. Many of you are not even aware how deeply hijacked you are, how your movements, your words, and the things you do and say, you're literally being remote controlled to do all of that. And the virus got into you through the form of gossip. The form of gossip and the desire to please the person who hijacked you, because they latched on to some sort of wound that you have. And you're working for that validation unconsciously. You want to keep that approval unconsciously. And they're very clear energetically on what it requires to keep their approval. Obey the unconscious instructions in the gossip. Obey the undertone and the objective of the gossip. You're not aware that you have fully submitted your spirit and your mind to their authority without even having a single conversation about that submission. So you allow them to politic and to govern and control a region of your life. They have literally established who your allies are and who your enemies are for you without your permission, but with your submission to the unconscious instructions of what they implanted in you in the form of gossip. That's why it's black magic. It's black magic. You're being remote controlled. You're being remote controlled. Now, what is important to understand is under that remote control, everything you do is still, you are still submitted to spiritual law. We still live in a spiritual system that is governed by spiritual laws. There's a consequence for every action. There's a cause for every effect. There's a nature to every pattern. Every sequence of patterns connects you to a field of reality that matches the nature of the pattern itself. So when you are being remote controlled and your patterns are in sync with a deceptive frequency and sequence of patterns, you will match with undesirable life experiences because that is where you fit within the sequence of experiences, that low vibrational sequence of patterns. When you match with people in relationships and you found out they was crazy much later. Well, how did you meet them? Well, I met them at this event. You met them at what were you doing at the event? Who invited you to the event? How did you find out? How did this event even get into your consciousness to go in the first place? And you can always source it back to an individual in your reality who was performing black magic on you and remote controlling you. You can always source back the root of why you took certain actions that landed in the most undesirable people from gaining access to your world and to your personhood to someone or something that was performing black magic on you, something that psychologically hijacked you. There are consequences to your behaviors, even if you make those behaviors while being remote controlled and psychologically hijacked, while submitting to unconscious instructions that were given to you by your hijacker. That's why they're sacrificing your soul and your humanity to execute something that they want done. Whatever that is. They might want your help in spreading a false and negative narrative about something or someone. They might want you to attack someone because perhaps a part of the gossip was a lie that they made up, that so-and-so said this about you, to get you angry and then to direct your anger towards their target. When really they just wanted their target to hurt. They wanted their target to be attacked, and they use your vulnerability, they use your sensitivity to do it for them. So even if you were manipulated into pulling the trigger, you are still going to be held account for pulling the trigger spiritually. Today we're talking about gossip is black magic for psychological hijacking and mind control. So it's important to be aware if you are in your body, consciously in your body and running the show, and why you do what you do. Are you present? Are you doing what you actually want to do? Are you making proper assessments with your own mind? Are you submitting to the judgments and to the perspectives of other people about people, places, and things that you really don't know anything about? Are you allowing people to implant narratives in your mind that may not be true? Are you allowing half-truths and whole lies to lead you in the decisions you make and how you assess people and how you treat people and where you go and where you don't go? Because if you are not in navigating reality with your own natural mind, there's no way in hell you're going to get to a desirable outcome, because you're not in control. You're being remote controlled. You're psychologically hijacked. Don't allow yourself to be psychologically hijacked. There are some people who have sinister psychological nature, and they know how to manipulate people through the form of fabricated gossip. And that's the black magic that they are blowing into your mind to control your thoughts, movements, and behaviors for a period of time. You're not even in control, even though you think you are. You're saying things that you don't even believe yourself. You're just saying it because someone gave you a narrative and now you're repeating it. And you don't even know why you're repeating. That's because you're under control. You're psychologically hijacked. It's a dangerous thing to be psychologically hijacked, because when you have allowed someone to possess you to that extent, what won't you do? How far can they get you to go? That's dangerous. When you're not in control of your own mind and you're not thinking about things critically. I'm not telling you to submit to my opinion. We all can agree that the highest measurement of truth is the reality you are forced to live. Therefore, you can use your own reality that only you know. Only you know your reality 100%. You can use your own reality to measure everything that I'm saying. I'm breaking down to you how black magic works in the form of gossip. I'm giving you practical information. We know how human psychology works. We know how suggestive advertising works, suggestive marketing works. We know how narratives can affect people and human behavior. We understand personal wounds that people have, of insecurities, of worthiness. We understand social behaviors. We know how people seek validation and approval, especially from certain people for certain reasons. There's a formula in which some people operate in, where they psychologically hijack people to remote control them to do their bidding. Have you been psychologically hijacked? Are you being mind controlled? It's important to assess yourself, to make sure that you are not psychologically hijacked. I wrote a post just yesterday about how psychological hijacking can also happen through love bombing. People who have a history of not being properly celebrated, supported, validated throughout their life are especially vulnerable for being psychologically hijacked through love bombing. The way this dynamic works is the hijacker pretends to respect, admire, and support their target with exaggerated, disingenuous, and excessive gestures, complimenting them. Then over a period of time, dumps and vomits their negative, suspicious, and gossipy thoughts about others on the target under the guise of casual conversation, but it's really a spell, black magic, instructions, and conditioning. Can you believe that all this can happen under the guise of conversation? That means you can have an interaction with someone and you were conditioned, given instructions, a spell placed over your mind, and all you did was talk to someone. And you can get psychologically hijacked from a conversation when you don't know what's really going on energetically. The target in this case slowly takes on the persona being imposed on them by the hijacker, because the hijacker is usually placing them on a pedestal, pretending to have them on a pedestal. That's usually the one of the major wounds that a lot of people have that can be exploited and manipulated. The desire to be validated. They're not getting enough validation and compliments in their personal reality. So when someone comes along and pretends to see something so special in them, that's the portal that the hijacker uses to gain command, remote command over their psychology. So the unspoken exchange and agreement between the hijacker and the target is that I will validate you. I will keep you on this pedestal, but only if the target executes the signals and commands of the hijacker. The hijacker then weaponizes the target under their remote control to attack or cheapen people they don't like, and or perform for them in other ways, like other missions, other dark and negative missions. So they're literally using your body. They're controlling your psychology to do their bidding. And none of this is being discussed, ladies and gentlemen. You're not having a conversation with your hijacker or an agreement, a conscious agreement with your hijacker that you're going to submit to them and do their dirty bidding. This is all unconscious. It can all happen literally in the form of what seems to be a casual conversation. But really, there's a dominant and there's a submissive. And that submissive is receiving instructions from the dominant in this dynamic where they're being psychologically hijacked. And they're executing these instructions. That's the unspoken agreement. The hijacker then weaponizes the target under the remote control to attack or cheapen people they don't like, and or perform for them in other ways based on what the target picks up on what the hijacker wants them to say, do, and perform with their humanity. Strangely, on the surface, the target may appear to have their own mind, a strong and developed personality, while the one who has hijacked them may appear totally unassuming, yet they are the one remote controlling them. Isn't that interesting? Often the hijacker is not someone who looks like they just totally unassuming. You can be hijacked by someone who looks unassuming, ladies and gentlemen. This is why it's important to study this and to learn this and to understand the signs when someone is attempting to psychologically hijack you. The target unconsciously submits to the remote control of their hijacker to receive validation that they are a very special person, and they become codependent on the hijacker's approval and validation. Man, I'm teaching up in here. One day y'all gonna appreciate this. One day it's gonna be appreciated. I'm giving you game. I'm giving you eyes so you can see. I'm giving you wisdom. The contract and function of their dynamic is totally unspoken. There is no official conversation about it. It's wired and indirectly established through black magic and spells within the construct of casual chatter and gossip. The target slowly dies to their own identity in life and becomes a character in the imagination of the hijacker, while their physical humanity is under the remote control of the hijacker. The hijacker may just be one person, but can also be a group of people who operate in the same spirit of manipulation and deception via psychological hijacking people who have just the right amount of wounds and just the right wounds and childhood traumas that can be exploited. Unhijack yourself, ladies and gentlemen. I'm making you aware. I'm making you aware. I'm giving you the principle step by step of how this black magic works. I'm breaking it down for you as clear as I can. I'm breaking it down where a third grader can understand it. I'm taking an extremely complex topic and I'm teaching it to you in a way that you can understand it so you can catch it when it's happening to you. Because this type of black magic is very sophisticated. Many of you listening, you didn't know that someone could gain control over your mind through a conversation, through what appears to be a harmless, casual conversation. But if they're trying to hijack you psychologically, they know how to assemble their words invent their gossip to drive you to do what they want you to do. They can literally put the spell on your mind and walk away and let you do it. It happens every day. There are so many people out there who just are not hip to game, being manipulated into foolishness because they don't know how to define and comprehend what is happening to them. They're under the remote control of something else, someone else who put an idea in their mind. People being manipulated into crimes, and not even just crimes. It could just be social dynamics, very dark, bully-like, exploitative dynamics. They're being manipulated into doing things that's against their own values and their own value system because they're psychologically hijacked. Now you understand it. Now you get it. Now you see how this black magic operates. Now you can point it out. And when someone attempts to do it to you, you know what to say. I know what you're doing. You're trying to psychologically hijack me. I'm hip to that game. Do not allow yourself to be psychologically hijacked.
This Throne Mastermind session has concluded. Visit thronemastermindsessions.com to inquire about membership and to gain access to more Throne Mastermind sessions. All members may now exit the private session.